We joined the game at a very tense moment at the National Championships 2024. Karthik Venkatraman with the black pieces is in a dominant position against Mitrabha Guha. Mitrabha plays his rook to c1 to put pressure on the bishop. The better move would have been knight to c3 because now Karthik can snatch the pawn on e2. What was Mitrabha's idea? Was it knight c7 to distract the knight and then pick up the bishop? Not so sure. He plays his knight back to c3, but it seems like he has blundered here because now rook takes f2 is an amazing move. Maybe Mitrabha was banking on knight e4, but the problem here is that after rook b2, knight takes c5. Oh, he does go knight e4, and now Karthik can play rook f5, but even stronger is rook b2. Fantastic move. A check here, and now the position is really gone because if you take the bishop here, then I'm going to take the rook, takes, and knight c5, and I'm simply 3 pawns up. So that's the reason why here he plays his king to h2, and now Karthik makes this beautiful move, rook b4. The point is that if you take here, I'll simply take with my bishop and I'm winning. And if you take on c5, then I have rook takes, and knight c5 with a winning position. So bishop f1 is played to put pressure on the a6 knight. There's still some tension here, but now rook takes e4 is a very nice move because it kind of clarifies everything in the position. After bishop a6, you're going to take back with the pawn, and after rook c5, we are actually moving in that direction. B takes a6 is taken, and after rook takes c5, I'm simply going to chop off the pawn on a4. Rook takes a4, and this is a winning position here for black. Black is currently 4 pawns up. Mitrabha captures back 1 pawn, but he is still 3 pawns down. Yes, it's true that the double pawns here are not that strong, but check. Let's see now Karthik's technique to convert this position. You have to be slightly careful, king h3, because the 2 rooks are ready to jump in on the 7th rank. He plays his pawn to h5. This is a very strong move because now the white king is completely tied down on h3. And after rook c1, he plays rook e8 with the idea of coming in, but rook c8 is played to trade off the rooks. He takes, rook takes, plays his king to g7, and now rook c7, you're going to win back 1 more pawn. But that means that you will be 2 pawns down still. Brings his king up to f6 first. Now rook takes a7 is taken. You don't want to lose another pawn. Let's say you go king e5, then after rook takes f7, the position is drawn. So he goes king e6. He keeps his pawn protected. And now slowly you want to start pushing your a pawn down the board, and at the right time bring your king into the game. So rook a8 played by Mitrabha, and the sad thing for white is that his king is completely tied down here. f6. Ooh, he's going for a quick kill here. He wants to go g5, then g4 and try to checkmate him. Rook e8 check. Maybe king d5. Seems logical to put the king on this square, but that leads to a draw after rook g8 as this pawn cannot be saved. So king f5. Now the rook comes to the c8 square, and g5 seems to be the winning move. Because if g5, then rook c5 is a problem. And if you go king g6, I take, and check, king f7, check, king here, and rook c5, and it's actually a draw. So that's the reason why he doesn't rush into it. He plays his rook to e2, the rook comes back, and now he starts pushing his a pawn down the board. And that's a good move because now if a check, then you can bring your rook in the middle. So check, rook comes back, Rook c6. And now if you play a4, then he'll come back behind the pawn. Karthik waits here. He plays his rook to d5. It always pays to be patient in such positions when you're winning. Mitrabha brings his king into the game. Is g5 a good idea here? Yes, it should be a good idea, because after take, you go king g4 with the idea of a check. But he plays his rook to b5. So rook a6 played. And Karthik has left the board here. Mitrabha waits for him to return. He also leaves the board. So both players are away from the board. Now Karthik returns and he's trying to figure out the winning idea. He first gives a check. And now the king can go to f3 or h3. He goes to f3. And Karthik puts his rook in front of the pawn. Rook b6. Check. King f2. He pushes his pawn to a4. And the king comes to g2. And now it's time for another check. Or maybe not. Maybe just rook b3 to free up the pawn's path on from the a file. Mitrabha plays rook a6. He knows the writing is on the wall. Very soon he might have to resign here, but first a3. King f2. Maybe a check and a2 seems like a good plan. He goes king e5. I like the fact that Karthik is very patient here. He's not in any hurry. He has no real nerves. Because if he wins this, he would become the national champion of India. And this is something that he isn't aware of, because it would be a tie at 9 points. He goes king d4. And now important moment, because he takes on f6. And I think this is what something Karthik had to calculate accurately. Because if a2, then there is rook a6 that's coming in. He does play a2. The rook jumps back. And now he gives a check. So the king has to move up. And black, on the other hand, wants to go king c3, king c2, king b1 and queen. That's his plan. Meanwhile, white king may want to go to f4 to g5, take this pawn. That's his plan. So this is getting into some form of a race. King f4. He gives a check. Now you can go to g5 to attack the pawn. He goes king g5 and rook g4 check could be a move. He goes king b3, very nice, because if you play king takes g6, I have rook a4, and then you can't stop this pawn from queening. A check means king a3. This is queening, so he has to play here rook takes a2 instead of taking the pawn on g6. And first he gives a check, saving the pawn and now picking up the rook. Mitrabha resigns and Karthik Venkatraman wins his game and becomes the national champion 2024. He goes home richer by 6 lakh rupees, and what a smooth win that was in the final round. Instead of rook c1, very quickly Mitrabha says, I should have brought my knight back to c3. That was the correct move here. Knight to c3, and the position still remains complicated. And but of course white is better, but it's still something where black is better, but white can still keep fighting for half a point there.